Here we go. Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. I am super excited to have Jack Elman here, who is known as a fitness professional on the North Shore of Long Island. He grew up in Roslyn, and I think he still lives there, right?
Yep.
And you know, it's this is actually the first time I'm meeting Jack, and you know, the power of social media always amazes me. Jack sent me a direct message after my last podcast with Leighton Grant, who's also a fitness professional. I guess their worlds, through the Venn diagram of their worlds, Jack reached out to me and then asked if he could use this platform to share his story, to talk about some really important issues. And I'm like, you know, we were talking a bit before we started recording, and I heard little bits and pieces of your life, and I couldn't be more excited to learn more about it. And I think the message that you're going to share is something that's going to resonate. So it's such an important message, and I'm super excited that you reached out to me, man. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story on my podcast, man.
I appreciate it, and thank you for responding and following up with it. I've been trying to get on a couple podcasts for a while now, and you responded, and then we found a date, and you followed through, and that's like something where you could see someone's almost even true colors, even if you were like, oh, I'm booked, but like just to send a response, because I watch your videos and being genuine and stuff, and that's a great thing that I like to see in someone. And yeah, man, I'm great, so happy to be here on a Saturday, and just amazing. And I don't know, you want me to just get into a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so I mean, let me set it up a little bit. So you know, my last podcast was with Leighton Grant, who is a fitness professional who suffered through some really serious mental health issues. And Jack reached out to me because Jack had some serious addiction issues. And, you know, don't let me speak for you, but from what I understand and just looking at your Instagram and knowing a little bit about you, through the world of fitness, it enabled you to recover in a healthy way and sort of channel addictive tendencies towards something that was helping you rather than hurting you.
Yeah.
And so I guess let me just start with a little bit of your background, because we were talking a little bit about this, and it's fascinating to me because we were just talking about, you know, I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island, you grew up on the North Shore of Long Island, and for those of the listeners who are not from this area, they're like worlds apart. So the South Shore, just not to overly generalize, but it's more of like a blue collar, you know, working class type of vibe. You know, the houses are kind of on top of each other, so almost like an urban suburban type of setting. And the North Shore, where there's, you know, a lot more sort of generational wealth, and, you know, these sprawling estates and all the golf courses, and, you know, like it's a much fancier, you know, place to live. And we were just talking about some of the differences about the way we grew up. So let's just take it back, because you grew up in Roslyn, which is known, I think, probably throughout the whole country as, like, you know, just a really fancy Long Island suburb. And, you know, talk to us a little bit about, like, you know, what your early childhood was like, man.
Yeah, I mean, my early childhood was a good childhood. Got everything I wanted in my life from my parents. I couldn't ask more. Had a good brother, have a good sister.
Where are you in there? Like,
I'm the middle
you're
child.
the middle child, okay.
But in my family, I always strived. I loved my family. But when I was in school and stuff, I felt different. I felt less than. I was insecure. I didn't know who I was. I never, like, with if someone was driving the nicer car, even like a young age, if a parent was dropping off, that wasn't the thing that made me ever insecure about it. Like, I knew where my family stood and stuff, but it was more like, I'm not as smart as this kid. I'm not as athletic as this kid. So who am I? Like, I couldn't accept being an average person.
Were you very wealthy, like even like relative to Roslyn?
No, I was probably in the middle, but my family, we weren't. My dad is a criminal defense attorney, well-known criminal defense attorney, and but we knew where we stood in Roslyn. There's some people in Roslyn, and it's not to knock anybody, but it's some people like to put on that they have more than they do. They drive a car they can't afford. They're going check by check, living in a house that you don't know how they really paid for it. So my family, I knew my dad was made a very honest living to me, and I knew where we stood. I knew we came from a nice upbringing. We were probably in like the middle of Roslyn, and I mean, it definitely progressed. My dad's business
Right.
got better as we moved to Roslyn. We changed houses and stuff, and it got better. But on the terms of me growing up as a kid, um, there was stuff though on the outside. My family looked like a nice family, but there was stuff going on inside the family that was definitely another reason why I felt very insecure walking to
With your
school.
parents, or
Yeah, with
okay?
my parents, and something which is like I said, I'm okay talking about, and it's nothing.
Do you want to get into some of it?
Yeah. When I was around 13, 14, my mom is an addict as well, and she at bar mitzvahs and different things, she would always be blacking out, and I'd watch her. I'd be invited to those bar mitzvahs, and I'd see like in a pause, and you see someone at a table having to be carried out from their stomach being like from drinking too much. She's another fitness nut. She's in amazing shape. She's 5'1", 100 pounds. So she couldn't hold her alcohol at all. Also, she had the disease of alcoholism. And
Even outside of like going to like these parties and stuff.
yeah, I would see it, but when I was younger, it was hard for me to notice it. And when I would get older and older, I would be able to notice it more. And one night we were coming back I came back from a bar mitzvah. She was home, and I wanted to give her a kiss goodnight to say that I'm home and I'm going upstairs to my room. And at the time, we were living in a rental house because our house was getting knocked down and we were building a house. And we were in this small little house, and she wasn't waking up. I'm waking her, I'm shaking her, and she's like green. And my dad must have had a couple of drinks. He's like, she's fine. And I turn over, and she's foaming from the mouth. I, uh, I call 911. Me and my brother call.
So you were 13.
13 years old. I'm like pressing her stomach. My brother's on the phone, and we got her help. She got her stomach pumped, tube down her throat. She lived. She was in a coma for a couple of days. She overdosed, but she lived she took
For
pills.
opiates, or
No, I don't know everything that was in her
okay.
system, but a bunch of pills, alcohol. None, it didn't agree with her, and she got the help she needed, and she's been sober ever since that day.
Wow.
And
Did she go away?
yeah, she kind of detoxed in the hospital. They put her through a system there, but she didn't go away to rehab after that. But she she got got through it. She got through it, but it definitely put some thoughts in my head I couldn't get out of for a
Of
long
course.
time, and a couple of resentments against her not being picked up from school on time sometimes.
Right. Like
Not
looking back, you're like,
Yeah,
oh, that's why.
yeah, that's why. And then it also when I got older, I felt like I had the entitlement. My mom was a drug addict and she did all this stuff. Why can't I do all this stuff? Who is she to ever tell me that I could be that I could do this and that when you were in your 40s doing that?
Right.
But
It's interesting because I live in Brookville now, which
yeah,
is, very similar to
yeah,
Roslyn. And, I'm 44, and we're
yeah,
at the age my daughter's starting to go to bat mitzvahs and bar
yeah,
mitzvahs and stuff. And, like you go to parties, and, it is like, it's interesting because the drinking culture is like, it's crazy actually. Like, it's like, and it's interesting because as like 20-year-olds, it's like whatever, like you're drinking all the time and,
yeah,
partying and stuff. But that kind of extends into like 40s, 30s, and 40s. And it's actually pretty wild to hear that, because I'm sure there's a lot of that that's obviously still going on because like, just people get trashed at like at these parties,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, when I was uh started drinking right away, I knew I had addictive tendencies from a young kid.
So you started like at the bar mitzvahs, like when you're
No,
13
I
and
never
stuff?
drank.
No.
My first drink I had was my freshman year of high school, but I never wanted to drink before that. because I know I said like my mom, oh, I'm gonna when I that's when I had the mentality when I started drinking. But before that, I'm like, I never want to be one of those kids drinking, especially because what happened to my mom. But once I got into high school, it just changed.
Right.
Like a different animal came inside me and stuff, and a different switched friend groups and stuff, and just changed my.
So were you hanging like who were you hanging out
I was
with?
hanging out with great, nice kids that were all going to be probably successful kids when probably successful now also, but they didn't want to party, and so it wasn't like I wanted. Like I said again, to fit in so bad
Right.
with I didn't know who. I didn't even think there was someone to fit in, but I was so uncomfortable with
You were
myself.
looking for community.
Yeah, I just wanted, and I wanted someone to people to be able to co-sign of like getting in trouble. A high for me was also getting in trouble, doing reckless behavior that I was not supposed to be
They
doing.
get attention for it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get that euphoric feeling from
Right.
it. So
So talk to me a little bit about how things evolved. So you
yeah,
started. I mean, I imagine it starts with alcohol.
yeah.
Then like is it weed is next or
I could get into a
yeah,
whole. Do you want me to go through
yeah,
my
just
my whole little
yeah, because I
thing?
think it's something that a lot of
Yeah,
folks
yeah.
gone through.
So when I started, I had my first beer maybe 15 years old. Um, couple like natty lights with like with a couple guys and smoked a little bit of weed there. And I was like, it wasn't like I took a sip and I was like, this is the greatest thing. I was
Hmm.
like, ninth graders drink. You go, like that's a
Right.
part
It's like a
of
rite of passage.
yeah.
Okay.
It's like this is a part of what goes on. And smoking when I smoked weed for the first time, I loved it. I thought it was like the coolest feeling, like hiding it from my parents, like buying a little bowl and
Hmm.
a little bit of weed, and just like my parents not knowing that I had it, and then getting like a lighter and getting so. And I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world.
Did your parents smoke weed? Do you know? Like
No,
looking back,
no,
never.
no, no.
Okay.
Neither of them did. And I just I thought it was amazing. Like, I loved weed, and I loved and when I was drinking, the only thing it gave me more confidence to talk to people, to talk to girls. I had no confidence at all. I was not able to. I in school I was not able to talk to a single girl from ninth to 10th grade. Also, because due to I had ADD, ADHD,
Diagnosed or
yeah,
undiagnosed?
diagnosed.
Uh-huh.
Learning disabilities. Like, always had extra time on my tests and stuff, and I fell behind. Like I said in Roslyn, you see kids going to Michigan. You see kids
Okay.
that are gonna go to big schools, and I would have loved to go to a really smart school, but it just I knew I wasn't smart enough, or I don't want to say I wasn't smart enough.
Right. You
I
just.
didn't have the drive
I
to
get it.
put in the work at that time. I wasn't
I get
mature
it.
enough, and I didn't. So I gave up. I was like, I'm just gonna. The only way for me to stick out in high school is to be one of the stoners and the
Mhm.
drink. That's it. That's the only way for me to thrive. And through high school, it was a slow progression in the beginning. Drinking, smoking.
Right.
It's what they like to say, weekend warriors.
Right.
You think about it during the week, like, oh, I can't wait to use my
Friday night.
fake
Yeah.
ID and do this, and you romanticize it in your head, like, I'll get through this math class because I get to
Mhm.
do this later. And ninth and 10th grade, it was normal. And then in my junior year, started hanging out with a couple other kids, and I started getting into working out and boxing and self defense. I got into boxing and working out in self defense a lot, and it definitely sparked my ego a little bit. Started to see change, started to get bigger,
Right.
started to learn how to fight, and but I was doing it for all the wrong reasons at that time. Like, I wanted to be able to box and do self defense because so I could kick the shit out of someone in
Right.
school, like start a fight at a party, and that's not what I wanted to do. That's not the right reason to go about it, but that was my
Right.
mentality. And so junior year started getting into the Xanax.
Where would you get it? Just from a dealer? Or?
Yeah, me and my friends, we had some seniors that were getting it and stuff, and it was like all fun and games. Like, to be honest, like with everything going on in the world now, with everything laced with fentanyl and all that, and we're lucky none of us died at that
Yeah.
time, and because we were just popping them. We didn't know what milligrams. We didn't know
Right.
anything. we were just drinking on them, getting Four Locos from the delis, and we didn't know. I was just blacking out. Like I didn't know how to at that point. I didn't know how to drink safely at all. Like every time I drank,
It was just to get plastered.
and even if I wasn't trying to, eventually I would. My mind, just like I would wake up the next day, and I was like,
how to get home?
Yeah, how did this happen, or like what did I do? And
did your parents know at that point?
they knew a little bit, but they were like, I think in their head they thought like, this is just like a phase, like a high school, like he'll mature out of it. And then senior year came along, kids started going into colleges. The school I wanted to go to Syracuse. My whole family went there. Both my siblings got in. My whole family, my dad went there, big Syracuse fanatic, and I got rejected, early decision. So I'm like, well, only other school, I'm like, biggest party school at the time, going to Arizona. I'm like, I could do what I want there, and I could also escape from Roslyn. I was just tired of, I wanted to start over. I wanted to be who I was and just be a new person.
There's got to be a lot of Roslyn and
Arizona, yeah, at the time, I went with one of my best friends from high school. Me and him were the only two kids to go. And I just wanted to get away because at the end of my senior year, I saw the drugs getting worse and my reputation.
Like still like Xanax
and then it started to progress with cocaine here and there. Took a couple Oxycontin here and there, Molly, like I was whatever you put in front of me, I would have done. I had no problem doing anything. I didn't see any like consequences in it. Like we would take in my house, we'd go in my basement. A couple of us, we would snort some Molly, snort some cocaine, invite older girls over, and that would be it. And it was just like, sometimes I didn't even know it was at my house. I had no clue it was even there. Like I just like, and my sister was young. She was an eighth grader at the time, and she would like see all this stuff and would be scared. She was like so scared that just like there were people running around my house. Like I didn't listen to my parents at all. I had no discipline in my life. And
your parents must have known at that point.
Yeah, they would argue with me like, stop smoking in the house, stop doing this, and I would just be like, yeah, and then like they didn't like grab onto me so much.
Should they have? You think? Do you think you would have been responsive?
I think it might have pushed me away even more.
Right.
I think they almost had, as fucked up as it sounds, I think they almost had the comfortability of me at least being in their house and not driving.
Yeah.
And
which is, you know, I mean, as a parent, it's obviously something that you fear, but I think, you know, that is like the real fear, I think, is really like ruling with like an iron fist. It's going to push you deeper into that world. You know, at least like, having you in their home.
Yeah. Or I could go somewhere else. Like I could go and do what I want to do.
Right.
I had a car at the time and stuff, but
do you think your parents thought, like looking back, I'm sure you've talked to them about it at this point.
Yeah. I have a great relationship with them now.
Or like, you know, like, were they like, yeah, you were out of control?
Yeah, they were like, there was no way getting through to you. And I got physical with them at points. Not a little further down when it got like a little physical. And
so they were just hoping this was like a
phase. Like maybe he goes to college and learns to grow up.
Right. So then so you go to college.
Go to Arizona.
I imagine it's just insane.
It was just insane. It was absolutely all the hype that you hear about it. Like it was like, girls are beautiful down there. And that's where I really got into fitness also, on like everybody's
just ripped,
juiced up, big. Like you see these like 17, 18-year-olds they're shredded. And I thought I was coming in there like from New York, like decent size. I'm like, kids are big.
Right.
These kids are, I'm like, but I loved it. I was like, it was like a motivation,
right?
Almost to being like powerhouse here. When you see like you see the bigger kids there, and I'm like, shit, I gotta start doing that. And but like the first couple weeks, like you would have parties in the dorms because I wasn't at a frat at the time, and I knew I started to have a big problem when I was partying harder than the kids in Arizona, and they were like, yo, this kid's a little like, you're
out of control,
too much. Like you gotta like take it down a notch. Like you're
It's like
black.
what? It's like what would happen?
Like
Just,
let's say like I would have like a handful of Xanax. Let's say 6, 7, pop 2 milligram Xanaxes, and at the time it was only that, and then drinking, uh, ripping bong hit after bong hit, and just blacked out. Like, and when I get blacked out, I'm like complete autopilot, and I also can't speak. Like I'm mumbling my words. Like you could tell that he's
fucked up.
incoherent on like drugs. Like I wasn't someone that could hide it.
Right.
Like once it came in my system, I was incoherent. And my first semester at Arizona was a little tough because it was like I had to fit in. It wasn't it was definitely an adjustment period. But then when I got into I pledged a frat, and I was like, this is gonna be amazing. Like,
Was it like that? Because like just having obviously been in college.
yeah.
Like, there's some frats which are like the drug frats. Some frats
This
which
frat,
are
you
like
know,
the
I mean, you could
sports
get
frats.
it wasn't a drug. It wasn't a drug frat. I mean, there were drugs in the frat. I mean, any Arizona frat had drugs in it, but it was all like good kids. Like to be honest, it was a lot of the kids were like pillars of society. I want to say like they were like there was a brotherhood there when I saw it, and I was like, I was only going in for the partying. I was like,
Right.
the only way to get girls in Arizona is if you're in a frat. So I got to join a frat, and I'll make more friends there. And the parties are insane. So I pledged a frat. The hazing sucked. Went through it. Got initiated, and was in the fraternity. Partied a little bit. Did what I had to do, and then like I'll fast forward a little bit into
So what's going on academically? Like
academically. So my first semester, I had a 0.5 GPA.
Oh shit!
So I was on academic probation.
Were your parents like, what the fuck? Like,
They were like, well, no matter what, even if they were like, what the fuck, I had to get over a 2.5 to stay in school, or else you're kicked out.
so you're in the frat. Did you drop out of school? Did you drop out of Arizona?
So I'm in the frat. Stuff start getting a little darker.
Okay.
Start getting introduced to other drugs, and at that time, I started doing a lot of steroids in Arizona.
Okay.
Shooting a lot of steroids up at the time.
It's like what? Like
just at the time, like again, I didn't even know what I was doing. I think I was getting test, a little bit of Anavar because you're out there, you want to be shredded. A little bit of test, Anavar. What else was I? I think a little bit of Mastrone, a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And
I don't even know what half that shit is, man.
Yeah, but it was just at the time. I was doing that, and I'd be going to these pool parties, and I thought like I didn't know what steroids was doing, but I thought like shoot up right before I go to a party, snort a line, and I'm like, I feel like I'm
the man.
Superman. And
were you just jacked, like shredded out of your mind?
I wasn't, I got way bigger after. I thought I was. I mean, I was definitely big. I was definitely in very good shape in college. I went through, but I also went through roller coasters with my size because I would go through really big drug points where I wasn't working out. Mm-hmm. So, but at my peak, I was working out, doing a lot of drugs, and then it started to get a little dark. I got introduced to Oxycontin, what they call like blues, like synthetic heroin, and started to get introduced to that hardcore. And I did it years ago, and I didn't think it was going to hit me as hard. And
so you did it like in high school,
high school record, like just a little. Yeah. I did like a half here and there.
Uh-huh.
Did it my freshman year. Did it a little bit. And the thing is, in my frat, like they really had a no drug policy. I was living in the fraternity house. They didn't want drugs in the house. Right. Like they weren't all like you could find drug addicts in the fraternity, and I could branch out to other fraternities, other kids who I knew, and do drugs with them. And I started doing those drugs, and I found myself getting into really bad fights with people. Really bad fights. Like where bottles being cracked over kids' heads.
Oh my God.
I beat up a kid, and he came back, he stabbed my leg. I have a scar down here from the point of a bottle. Just really bad, reckless behavior. And then my parents started, I actually, supposedly when I was blacked out, I would call my parents crying, saying like I wanted to kill myself. Like I hate
wow.
living like this. And then I'd wake up the next day and they would be like, so do you want to come home? I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like,
Really?
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm fine. Like, leave me alone. I need $200 for to pay my tutor, and then click, and they would be like,
wow.
And the last final kind of signs was I was in Cabo for spring break. I was partying down there, and
party like be like Coke or
just like it was spring break. It's Mexico. You could go to a pharmacy and you can get any drug you want out there. So I was like popping just all these different pills and like muscle relaxers, all these different like somas, which is like is like basically like the Quaaludes is in a generic form.
Gotcha.
Just popping them, and then
looks like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly. Right? And it was like I swallowed.
Is it like that? Like,
except I was broke, not making money. That like say taking.
Nobody's like that. Where, like that scene where he's like his Lamborghini's like he has no idea what's going on.
Yes, that was me. That was me every single night. That was me every single night. By the end of the night, and one night I slipped and I shattered my leg and I tore my ACL. And I woke up. I didn't even know. I woke up the next day and my leg was like.
Oh my God.
I had to go to a hospital in Mexico.
Oh my God.
They gave me. No one spoke English. One of my pledge brothers came with me, and they fixed up my leg in Mexico. Like they put like a shitty cast on, and all this.
So where is this junior year of college?
Yeah, this is my
second semester.
No, or it might have been sophomore year. It was like a sophomore year, second semester. Get my leg fixed. Go back to school. Mellow out a little bit. I'm like kind
of. You came back to New York to get your leg fixed?
Yeah, I came back to New York. I mellowed out a little bit. Like got my head straight. Like a week. School was almost over at the time, that sophomore year. And then I finished school, came back. And at the time I was working when I came back from, when I would come home for the summers, I wasn't really doing the hard drugs. I was doing it here and there, but I was always working. Like I was always hustling. I worked in the Diamond District for, at the time I was just like, my dad knew a couple guys there and I was just kind of hustling, doing like, even just handing out the papers on the street and stuff, just trying to.
Is that what you wanted to do, like work in the jewelry business?
I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I was getting some money in my pocket.
Okay.
And I thought I liked the idea of it. I mean, I saw like all the nice watches and all the, but there was some stuff in there I didn't love particularly. And came back from my junior year, and I'm like, I'm gonna get my shit together. I'm like, I wanna maybe find a girlfriend, settle down, like try to find that. But my junior year, it was I was living in a beautiful apartment in with 3 other guys, and I wasn't going to class. There was a pool on the roof of the apartment, and there's a gym in the apartment. So I was like,
gold.
Yeah. And I had that same girl running my classes. But the thing is, like, all other kids were taking their classes. So I found myself home all the time, hitting up like sketchy kids. And
so everybody's chilling in this apartment.
Like I'm not worrying about school. But it got very lonely because like no one's around. Like kids are starting to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Like, and I don't even know what classes I'm in. I don't know a class. I don't know who I am or anything. I go to the gym for an hour a day and then just do drugs. Like that was my entire day. And then there was parties at night. There were some girls here and there. But at the end, my junior year, it got like to a point where it got like really depressing because I started getting into those drugs. And
so were you pretty much just on OxyContin at that point?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would always take other drugs with it. Always, like, just because I could get it on me. And OxyContin got expensive. I mean, it's $30 a pill to get a pill. So at the time, by the end, I was taking 6-7 a day. So
wow,
it adds up. Plus getting weed, plus getting other drugs and stuff. That becomes really expensive. So I'm doing it for.
So and you're basically selling weed on the side, whatever you have to do.
And I'm also with this teacher. There were other kids from Arizona who I started to get into those classes.
Gotcha. So you get a cut.
Smart kids that would that would hit. And to the day, I'll never say their names, but they threw me under the bus with other stuff. But I'll never go and say their names.
Right.
But like kids that have pretty high up jobs now would go up to me and want stuff, and then I'd get a cut out of it. I'd get a good cut, and at the end, I was getting the classes for free.
Right.
So I didn't have to pay for any of the classes, and my parents were giving me money for a tutor.
Right.
So that was all going.
So your parents had no idea about this arrangement that you had set up?
No.
Okay.
They know now what went on.
Yeah, of course.
I told them everything now, but at the time, no. They thought I had a nice, innocent Jewish tutor that was helping me.
Just some tutor, huh?
Just tutor that was getting the best tutor in the world that's getting me on Dean's list when I couldn't even do anything for myself. So I start really going hard with the drugs also. Like something's like switched in my head where we were almost talking about like I couldn't find happiness at all. So I'm like, let me just keep taking drugs. And at that point I was almost at a little bit suicidal. Like life was almost like,
you're 21.
I'm 20 at the time.
20, okay.
Like I would get in a lot of fights, and I'm like almost to the point where I started to get really reckless at parties because I'd be doing a lot of Oxycontin during the day. And then to wake up, I'd do cocaine to wake me up and then drink on that. And I'd be belligerent at parties, like beating up people. And then this is like the last straw to get into it. My fraternity, they gave me a warning. They're like, you got to like take it easy or you're out of the fraternity. Like you are a huge liability to us. You're going to get us in a lot of trouble. There were points where I broke a kid's jaw in another fraternity, and the cops were showing up to our house. They didn't know who it was. The kid was so blacked out he couldn't identify me at the time. And I was in there was a huge party. It's called the Foam Party. It was the biggest party, one of the biggest parties Arizona throws. And I had some kids visiting and stuff. And I'm like, I felt like good about myself because I'm like, I got to show the kids a good time. But I still had the drug addiction, so that doesn't go away. I'm still doing drugs, doing a lot of drugs through the day. And then everybody in the fraternity does cocaine that night. It's just like most of the kids. And did a lot of cocaine. I drank a lot. I blacked out by the pregame. Get to the party. We had bouncers at the time. I guess like I was really belligerent. Didn't want me to come to the party. Start like saying stuff to him. Start going back at it. We get into a huge fight. I had two other big friends from a different fraternity I brought as guests. They start beating up on this guy. Security guards start coming in. They start beating me with the baton. They spread my arms open and they handcuffed me and they choked me and they put me to sleep. And I have like 5,000 other stories, but that was the last story. And the next day I wake up, I get a Facebook message from the president of my fraternity. He said, "Can you please come to my room?" He was living at the house. "I need to talk to you." And I woke up and was like, what the fuck happened? I have scars, like bruises at the time, all over my body, huge black eye. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? I look at my phone. I have messages from kids, and I have absolutely no clue from past 9:30 what happened. And they give me an ultimatum. They were like, "We love you. Like, we know you're genuinely an amazing guy, but you have a serious drug problem, and you need to either we'll let you back into the fraternity if you go to rehab for 4 months. If you don't choose to do that, you're suspended until your last semester of school to be in the fraternity." And I said, "Fuck you guys. I don't need any of you guys. I don't have a problem." I walk out of there. I take a bunch of Oxycontin. I put them on the table. I crush them up. Take all of them. And I just start crying. I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in a long time. And I was not able to ever look at myself in the mirror. And I saw, like, who have you become? Like, who are you? I was so lost with who I was. And I got the courage I called my mom, started crying. I said, I need to come home. I said, I'm going to die. I said, I can't live like this anymore. I'm throwing up every morning from withdrawals, like trying to get money together just to get a little bit of like even just weed to smoke and to kick my drug. My life is like crazy.
Were you like rail thin at this point? Like,
yeah, that's where like I got like, I was just like, and I was at that point I was in the worst shape of my, like I was like, you know, like as crazy as it sounds, was working out on drugs also. Like I would take drugs and just go work out because I was obsessed. Like I would do it. I would just curl like 10s and 50 and just stay like in shape, do like push-ups, pull-ups, all that stuff. But when I look at pictures now, I was like, wow, I was thin and I looked sick. Like I looked sick, and I came home, and
so this is your second semester of junior year, basically.
Yeah, second semester, and then I left Arizona. I left my stuff there. My dad was like, "We have a flight for you at 9:30 at night. Hop on it." I was like, "Shit! Why did I just say that to my parents?"
Did your parents know the extent? Like on that phone call, we were like, "Listen, like." They probably knew you were fucking around with drugs and drinking and partying and stuff. I think, but were you like, you guys don't really know how much drugs?
They knew that. When they knew, they were like, all right, it's time for him to come home. He's ready. Because at a point, I'm 20 years old. Like they can't just, like, they could bring me home, but at the time, if I'm not ready, I'm just gonna walk out of the house and do whatever I want to do. And I get on the flight. I was completely blacked out for the flight. Get home, I woke up and I'm like, why did I tell my parents I did that stuff? Like, you know, it's like the cat's out of the bag now. And I just like,
you just fucked yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of, you're thinking that.
Now it's like they're like, okay, we need to see doctors, see everything. I said, no, I'm fine. I just need like space away and doing a little bit of stuff at home. And I start getting like, it's like 3 days in, and I start getting super depressed. Like super, because like everybody's in school, I'm home, and it starts to hit me like, you just left school, like you just left all your stuff behind. Everybody knows what happened. Like Snapchat was just getting big at the time. Like there were videos of me of that night that went on
that you were probably seeing for the first time. Like, holy wow,
yeah,
I can't believe I was doing that.
And I'm like, that's not me. And the time where I said it got physical was, I was like, this is gonna be the last time I do drugs. My mom walks in on me in my room, bunch of drugs, and I finished it at the time. Turns around, she's like, you have to stop, like you're ruining our family. And I was so messed up, and I grabbed her and I threw her, and I was like, you can't tell me what to do. You were a drug addict. You were this, that. Like, I don't care. You're clean now. You're still a junkie at heart. Like if I put one of these down for you, you would do it right now. And it broke her heart. She broke down. She cried. She ran away. She was scared. And I started crying. And a day later, I went into her room and I said, I don't know if it's rehab I need to go to or like what I need to do, but I need to get help. And a lot of the rehabs were booked at the time. It was a big waiting list for a lot of the rehabs. So I went into like the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and from there, to be honest, there's my story. From there, I saw something in a lot of people. There was a guy in there who was I was a camp counselor. I went to sleepaway camp. I was a camp counselor for this kid's son. I used to always see this dad always messed up on visiting day, visiting his son. And I saw him in the rooms the first day, and I saw him. He was like, I'm going to be celebrating 5 years. And I was like, holy shit, this guy could be sober. I'm like, gave me like some strength.
Was he an alcoholic?
Yeah, alcoholic, drug addict, all that stuff. And
how old are you now, man?
I'm 25 years old.
Wow.
So I have almost 5 years of sobriety.
So all through AA.
Yeah, all through
AA. So just are you allowed to talk about, like, you can't talk about individuals, obviously.
No, I can't.
It's anonymous, but but what is it? So you go to AA for, like, is it like what you see on like TV shows? Like you're all sitting around in a circle?
To be honest, like I put a lot into my recovery. Like it's not easy, and like I to be honest, like my recovery comes before my family, everything, because without that, I don't have my family.
Right.
And yeah, it's like their meetings.
So just tell me about that first meeting, if you remember.
The first meeting, I walked in with two black eyes. My mom's dragging me into the room. I did not want to go in. I go in there. I listen. I always thought I was going to be able to.
In Roslyn? It's in Roslyn?
It was in Manhasset.
Okay.
I always thought I was not going to be able to. I knew I could never drink safely again, but I always thought I'd be able to like smoke pot here and there. But then I started to listen, and I saw young kids in there also listening and see how like they're smiling and all this stuff, and I'm like, I want that. Like, I want to just be able to be happy. I want to know who I am. Like, and I'm like, me, like when I was doing, I thought I was a tough guy doing all the drugs and all that stuff. I was just the weakest I was. Like, I couldn't deal with my emotions and all that stuff. And I was like, I came back from that first meeting. I said to my mom, like, I want to get sober. Like, I'm gonna do this.
How long is the meeting?
An hour.
Okay.
And the time I wasn't working at all.
Did you tell your story a little bit at that meeting?
No, I was too scared.
Okay, so you were just listening.
I didn't have I was a little too scared to raise my hand for the first couple of weeks. I didn't know. I was also fried. Like I was withdrawing in the rooms off drugs and stuff. Like I didn't go to a detox or rehab. Most people do.
Right.
And I was like, I'm just gonna kick it. I was like,
so you were just like puking every morning.
Yeah, I was shaking in my bed, wetting my bed, all this stuff. And my mom helped me out a lot through it. She really sat through me. Like she was like a rock. Like today we're best friends to this point. Like she's sat with me through like my toughest times that I've gotten through my life.
Like throwing up in a garbage can and all that stuff.
And shaking and didn't know if I could make it through. And like,
so do you go like, so you go to the first meeting and like, you know, you're going through your withdrawals and you're kind of recovering through all this stuff. When's the next meeting? It's like every week?
I mean, thank God for the with Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever programs other people do, that if you wanted to, there's meeting guide apps now where you could find the meeting every hour. If it's 20 minutes away, if it's 30 minutes away.
Wow.
Like that recovery is so big now.
So how often did you go? Like
at that time I was going every single day.
Every day.
Every day. I didn't have a job. I wasn't in school. I was like,
were you drive yourself or your mom would take you?
No, I didn't have a car. My mom drove me, and she also didn't trust me. I was pissing in a cup for like the first 2.5 years of my sobriety.
Really?
Yeah, with the doctor. I was
like your parents arranged that?
Yeah, and it was like an agreement to live in their house. I had to be a piss in a cup.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, like if I'm gonna be clean anyway. So, dove into it, like loved it. I made a lot of my best friends in the program. I had a lot of young kids from college which struggling. And the crazy thing is now you see kids younger and younger coming in.
Right. High school kids and stuff too?
16, 17-year-old kids, maybe freshman year college kids. And it's just because the drugs are getting so much worse. Everything is laced with fentanyl now.
Right.
Everything is, you're not getting pure stuff. I'm not saying pure stuff is good.
Yeah.
But people drop like...
Well, there's like a lot more risk for death. Yeah.
And like a little, because there's so much I wanted to touch on. It's started celebrating the program. It started getting amazing. And, but like I said, my year 2 and 3 in the program got so bad because, I put away the drink and the drugs. Like I'm clean of drinks and drugs, but I'm like, still have myself. You still have like, that was like my coping mechanism. So I'm like, at first I picked up gambling, got really, really, really bad.
So how did you have any money though?
No, I was going
house money.
Yeah, house money. Wasn't really. Yeah, I had no money at all. But I made a lot of money in gambling in the very beginning.
So we were actually chatting about this before we started. But I totally got mesmerized by every other part of your story. Yeah. So like you're basically channeling your addiction into gambling.
Yeah. I'm channeling it into gambling, like, and that hit just like another
the high. Yeah.
Hit, and it got just as bad as drugs and alcohol, if not worse.
Wow.
And it put me at the end into a very dark suicidal place where I thought.
Did your parents know about that?
At the end, where I pawned off I had a Cuban link I pawned off. I pawned off my Cartier watch. I pawned off everything I had. Every single thing, all my, like, everything I have now, I had to buy, pawned off. I had over 50 pairs of Jordans sold. Nice pair. I would say, to be honest, in gambling, what I spent, they give over $100 grand.
Wow.
And
so what happened at the end? Like, I just like fast forward to how bad it got.
It got bad where I had to pay off. I actually just finished paying off one kid who I was close with, and I owe like a close friend a couple $100 right now, which like we have an arrangement, right. But like with the people who I had to really pay away,
like that would have hurt you if you didn't pay them.
My dad squared it off, and then I made what they call in the program a financial amends made to my dad. I couldn't pay him all the money I stole from him and stuff, but I gave him like my first couple of checks that I made from training and stuff, and I said, like, here, I know it's not as much, but like what I took from you, but like I just want you to know that, like, here's some money.
So when did all the dust settle with that?
It was going on through my bodybuilding. Like when I was like, it's so hard to get even into the bodybuilding. Like when I was in sobriety after a year of being sober, like I really started working out when I was sober because you have nothing else to do, but I wasn't doing like getting into it hardcore. And then I joined Powerhouse. Maybe I had like 9 months in the program, and sorry to jump around. I was just like, I want to fill in just on.
But you weren't doing juice or anything at that time.
No. But I walk in there and I'm like, holy shit, these guys are fucking huge. Yeah. Like they're massive.
This place is insane.
Yeah. Like, and I've seen big dudes before, like, but these guys are big. And I didn't want to be as big as the big guys.
As the Kai Greens.
I didn't want to be as big as Juan Morel or Kai Green, Jay Cutler. I didn't want to be as big as those guys. Because I still wanted to be able to get girls and stuff. I wanted to just be. So I'm like 4 months into lifting there, think I'm getting big. I'm like, I want to do a show. I'm like, so I find the coach there, who I actually have had a very good relationship with. But to this day, he actually passed away. But he taught me a lot of things I know. But the one problem, he was just like, you got to take juice. Like, there's no way to compete like with your genetic build and everything without juice. I'm like, yeah, I really shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, I think back on it, I'm like, all right, fuck it. Like, did it, started bodybuilding, loved bodybuilding. On the side, I was gambling, winning a little bit, paying for one bodybuilding, paying for juice, all that stuff. And then the problem became with bodybuilding with me is like, I hit a point where it's like, I was doing okay in shows, nothing great. I knew I could never be anything. I'm not like genetically built like that, nor I don't want it to be my entire life. Like I want to have a family. I want to have like a girlfriend. And I also started seeing like 45, 50-year-old bodybuilders that are not pros and all stuff driving home in pieces of shit cars. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person. Not to knock, like if that's like, I didn't want to be that person like that. I love fitness, but there's such a big difference between fitness and bodybuilding.
Right.
There's such different avenues to fitness and bodybuilding. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to do like the box. Bodybuilders can't go 5 rounds and box and do all, and there's a whole different life to fitness than bodybuilding. And after that, I got out of it. I got out of bodybuilding. I actually got out of it because my girlfriend found out I was
on juice.
Yeah, and she gave me an ultimatum, and I was actually happy she found it because it gave me an escape out of it. So I got out of that, got out of the gambling. I got clean with my parents because I had no money at all. I had nothing else.
I mean, did you tell your parents that you were doing juice and all that stuff too?
Yeah, they found it. I told them everything. I got clean. I was like, I'm like, were
they just? I mean, it's at any point where they're just like,
They're like
just so
my dad threw
frustrated.
me out of the house the last night of the gambling. I actually was like homeless for a night, and he was like, "I don't understand what the point of you getting sober was, because all your behaviors are even worse than now you're sober, but you're in this much of debt, and you're just like I thought bodybuilding was gonna make me like get girls and like be an amazing like." To be honest, like I was getting too big to a point, and I was also my skin was getting bad. Stuff was not like I wasn't looking that good. Like to a point, I thought I was. I mean, guys were telling me I looked good, but I didn't get girls that were telling me that I looked good. And I got out of all that stuff, and
So what is that like?
I would say it was about got out of bodybuilding around 2 years ago.
Okay.
Got out of gambling around little less than 2 years ago.
Okay.
And then I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was confused. I was scared a little bit to go into fitness because I was like, I didn't know that you could be like successful. That I started listening to like podcasts, the whole like Gary Vee, all the motivational speakers. I loved like Joe Rogan, just listening and started like fantasizing. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go get certified to be a trainer. I'm gonna go learn about. Like I knew all how to train and all that stuff from my coach and just lifting for
Ever, basically.
for 6.5 years at the time. I knew everything, but I'm like, you know what? I want to learn a little bit more on corrective exercise, a little bit more on just like TRX, just all different stuff. So I got certified, and I, as a trainer, I started to really love like helping other people more than like helping myself a little bit. Like it was almost like in the program, and I'm helping another person now.
Right.
I started like helping people, and I liked it, and I didn't think I would start becoming as successful, but I started getting a lot of clients, and like the money's good for a 25-year-old. I couldn't complain of a 24. And I also started, my brother is a sports manager. I started training athletes, and it started getting me into that side of it. I worked with last year a big rapper. Just we would do some workouts. I wasn't his full-time trainer, but we would train a lot, and I would start getting him
at Equinox, or
no, I would meet him. He's up in New Jersey. He had a gym up in Jersey. I would drive from Jersey, and I just started like hustling, like up at 6 o'clock in the morning, working until 10 o'clock at night, training. Like if someone said I am off work, I can only train like 11:30 at night. In the beginning, I'll be there. 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll be there, and it started opening up other avenues for me. Like I was always so self-conscious because I was like, I didn't graduate college. I didn't like all these other, but I'm gonna make like a mark for myself. And I got involved with some people. I can't disclose names right now, but I'm in the middle right now of in a project of opening up a gym. It's a new concept of a gym. It's more of a boutique fitness gym. And with a couple other partners, which I can't disclose the name yet, but my life in the past like year and a half has gotten to a point where I never thought it could get to, and it became really with the program being honest to myself and being happy.
Were you talking about like gambling and stuff in the AA?
I got clean about it around 2 years ago. Started opening up about it. I was gambling with another kid in the program. We were like partners.
Gotcha.
And two addicts doing that together is a recipe for disaster.
Is he all good with that now too?
Yeah, I think so. Like, think he is, but I kind of worry about myself and have to like watch out for my own self. And and it's like I said, addiction doesn't get easier. And at any point, like this year, I lost my best friend due to an overdose. And last year, one of my really good friends from college took his own life due to this disease. So buried a lot of people and it's fucked up to say I'll probably stay here burying a lot more people who I know.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, the life I have now is like I just want to like I love motivating people and just knowing that you could there's a reset button. Like you could start at any point in your life and you just have to be comfortable with yourself and have the courage even to ask for help and just get that help. And you could have you could have a life beyond your wildest dreams and anything you want to do if you set your mind to it.
I think that's a good place to close this, man. I mean, I could talk to you literally
I could go
forever, man. I mean, you're filled with these with stories and stuff. But I think the takeaway is like you've been in some fucking dark places, man, and you made it through it by having the courage to have self-awareness and asking for help.
Once again, I really appreciate you having me on here.
Man, I so appreciate you sharing your story, man. That's such an honest story. And
anytime, man.
Thanks so much, man.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. The audio for this podcast can be found on Apple's iTunes and SoundCloud. Let's get it.